Discover the amazing fruit hidden from seniors that transforms circulation and clears arteries. Eleanor's heart raced as she scrolled through the article. Could be true. This magical fruit that had long been buried in the local lore could be the key to healing not just for Jim, her dear friend, but for every neighbor who relied on the very medications that drained them of hope. Memories of patients she had once nurtured flooded her mind. Those bright-eyed kids, the veterans she hugged tightly and sent off with words of encouragement. The thought of being a beacon of hope again sent shivers down her spine. She stirred her tea, looking out at the fading sunlight casting hues across the suburban landscape she once adored. Over the years, the laughter of children while running in her yard had dulled. Now, her home felt more like a museum of memories than a lively gathering place. She felt isolated, like a withered flower, waiting for the touch of rain. But just then, she was reminded of the flicker of light within a spark igniting in the depths of her weary heart. Setting her cup down resolutely, Eleanor made a decision. This health event she would organize wasn't simply for Jim. It was for everyone who felt throttled by aging, by fear, and by the burden of dependence on pills. She spent sleepless nights preparing flyers, her hands expertly coloring in those bright illustrations of the fruit she believed would change lives. The thrill of purpose surged in her veins, and she could almost feel the warmth of her neighbors' smiles again. As Eleanor stood at the park the day of the event, anxiety twisted in her stomach like a coiled rattlesnake. To her left, Jim's frail figure stirred the crowd, beckoning familiar faces and spreading his easy laughter. But doubt loomed as those people, used to the hospital's quick fixes, eyed Eleanor's mysterious fruit with skepticism. She felt the weight of their stares, the whispers tangled together like thorny vines. Before we continue, Eleanor suddenly spoke. I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The murmurs echoed in the air. What does she know? Are we really supposed to trust this? Eleanor poured her heart out, recalling the sheer beauty and resilience of their community. As her words spilled forth, the afternoon breeze seemed to carry the weight of change. Listen, she implored, it's not just about the fruit. It's about us taking back our health, standing united against a system that profits from our fear. But alas, the shadows of doubt loomed larger. Yet just as despondency threatened to take root, hands began to rise raised in support, fueled by Eleanor's conviction. Jim's voice rang out. Remember your healing roots. Together, we can rekindle the faith. Here, the bonds of shared experiences began to weave like colorful threads across the backdrop of doubt. Would they step out of the shadows? Would they dare embrace the healing? Hope surged as Eleanor witnessed the embers of courage igniting in the eyes of her neighbors. But one question remained. Would they break free from the chains of skepticism that held them hostage? The air thickened with anticipation, leaving Eleanor at the edge of revelation. Eleanor felt a wave of relief wash over her as the hands rose higher. Amid all the doubt, there seemed to be a thread of hope weaving through the crowd, and she clung to it like a lifeline. But her heart still thudded in her chest. It wasn't just about persuasion. She had to show them. Let us not just talk about the fruit, she continued, her voice steadying among the nervous whispers. Let me introduce you to some powerful testimonials. She glanced at Jim, who nodded encouragingly, his smile wide enough to chase shadows away. One by one, neighbors began to step forward. There was Mr. Thompson, a retired firefighter whose grit was legendary in the neighborhood. He took the mic, his hands trembling slightly. I've been battling high blood pressure for years, he admitted, and honestly, I just didn't think anything could change. The crowd leaned in closer, their expressions shifting from judgment to interest. Mr. Thompson continued, but I tried this fruit last month, found it through Eleanor's article. Since then, my doctor is amazed. My blood pressure is down to normal for the first time in years. A smattering of applause broke out, surprising Eleanor as she felt the room shift. Then Mrs. Patterson, the sweet grandmother who always baked cookies for the kids, stepped up, her eyes bright with life. I felt tired and out of breath. This fruit, it's given me energy I thought I'd lost forever. I can ride my bike again. I feel like I'm young again. Laughter bubbled from the group, echoing off the park's trees, bringing back a long-forgotten sense of community. Eleanor's spirit soared. See, she urged, this is about reclaiming our lives. It's about breaking free from those chains. If these neighbors can see change, so can each of you. She caught Jim's eye. He beamed at her, and for a brief moment, uncertainty faded into shared purpose. But her thoughts raced. Had she truly turned the tide, or was this just a moment in a long battle? Before she could ponder further, a teenager, Chris, who had been filming the event, raised his hand. Can I ask what's in it? If this fruit works so well, why isn't everyone talking about it? A sudden hush fell over the crowd. Eleanor recognized skepticism and worry. She felt herself fighting the urge to retreat into doubt. It's not about hiding information, she answered confidently. It's about spreading it. You've all trusted the pills all these years, but they come with side effects. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Eleanor sensed the divide. Misinformation and fear had loaded their minds like heavy weights. What if you just tried it? Jim chimed in, his voice warm yet commanding. What is the worst that could happen? You might feel better. With that, the tension deflated slightly. Chris lowered his phone, laughing nervously. All right, I'll give it a shot, Eleanor smiled, but beneath that, a shadow of doubt flickered. Would it actually work for everyone? Or was there a deeper roadblock they hadn't confronted yet? As she stepped back, the energy in the park shifted. Familiar faces began to smile at each other, stories and laughter blending into a chorus of renewed determination. But worry still clung to her heart like a shadow. What if they faced something harder than simply trying a new fruit? Something deep-rooted that couldn't simply be washed away by hope. Eleanor gathered her breath. Whatever lay ahead, she was willing to fight for each of them. As the sun dipped lower behind the trees, casting a glow across the park, she realized that this was only the beginning. If they truly wanted to change, they had to embrace more than just the fruit. But what would that mean? Would the journey of real healing lead them down an unexpected path? Eleanor felt the tension in the air as she stood before the crowd, the faces of her neighbors illuminated by the fading sunlight. There was an energy that pulsed like a heartbeat, a blend of hope and hesitation. She took a deep breath, ready to guide them through the murky waters of uncertainty. Imagine what it could mean for each of us. She began, her voice ringing out with clarity. Imagine a life where you feel vibrant, free from the weight of sickness. She scanned the crowd, locking eyes with a few people nodding along, people who live their lives with quiet struggles, just waiting for a ray of light. Before we dive deeper, I want to ask you all, Eleanor paused, the weight of her words hanging in the air. What are you afraid of losing? I mean it. She felt a surge of courage. What's been holding you back? There were murmurs now, hushed voices taking turns, echoing Eleanor's thoughts. What if this doesn't really work? What if it's just a hoax? What if I'm too old to change? In that moment, Eleanor knew she had to challenge their fears. Fear is a nasty thing, she said, urgency blooming in her tone. But what if, instead of being afraid, we could embrace change? What if trying something new could mean a second chance at living fully? She looked at Mrs. Patterson, who nodded earnestly, tears brimming in her eyes. Life hasn't always been kind. Mr. Thompson spoke again, his voice deeper now. But standing here with all of you, I feel I can face whatever comes next. We owe it to ourselves to try. What do we have to lose? Absolutely, Jim shouted, his voice booming like a wave that washed over the crowd. We've already lived with the pain. Isn't it time we lived with the hope instead? Eleanor felt the room swell with emotion. There was camaraderie, forming a tapestry of shared experiences, stitching them all together. It wasn't just about the fruit. It was about their lives, their dreams, their futures. Then Chris, the teenager, piped up again. But what if we don't know the right way? What if we mess it all up? The worry in his tone was palpable, and the sea of faces turned toward Eleanor, silently seeking reassurance. Learning is part of living, Eleanor said, determination igniting her voice. Every hesitation can be a step toward understanding. We want to have all the answers right away, and that's okay. Together, we'll find those answers. We'll become the guides for one another. The crowd began to murmur agreement. Eleanor could see the flickers of determination igniting in their eyes, but a small doubt still nibbled at her mind. Was she ready to lead them on this journey? She knew better than anyone that change wouldn't happen overnight. Let us start small, she suggested, her heart racing. We can hold weekly gatherings as a support group to share our experiences, both good and bad, learning from one another. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Yes. The buzz of excited chatter began to ripple through the audience. The idea took hold like a fresh seed in fertile soil. Eleanor felt uplifted, the warmth of connection enveloping her. But beneath it all, an inkling of apprehension rooted itself within her. Would they truly be able to face those deeper fears as they journeyed together? And was she strong enough to guide them through whatever storms lay ahead? As the sun finally vanished, casting a blanket of stars across the sky, Eleanor knew that the night was only a promise of light dawning. But in her heart, she realized, what if the path ahead was more uncharted than she imagined? What if discovering the truth about the fruit was just the tip of an iceberg that would lead to deeper truths inside each of them? Suddenly, she wanted to ask, what else could they change within? The following week felt like a whirlwind for Eleanor. With each passing day, her heart raced as she prepared for their first gathering. A sense of anticipation mixed with trepidation settled in her stomach. They had agreed to meet at the old community center, a spacious hall with peeling paint but filled with warmth. She pictured their faces, some eager, others skeptical, but all there in the spirit of changing their lives. That on the evening of the meeting, Eleanor arrived early. She arranged light refreshments on the tables and set out chairs in a circle, creating an inviting atmosphere. The smell of homemade cookies hung in the air as community members began trickling in, their faces reflecting the nervous excitement of the unknown. Eleanor welcomed everyone with a warm smile, trying to quell her own nerves. "Thank you all for being here," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "This is a place where we can share our stories, not just about health, but about hope. We're all in this together." As the night progressed, stories began to flow. Mrs. Patterson shared how she had been struggling with joint pain for years, making everyday tasks a battle. "I've got grandchildren who I can't keep up with," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Eleanor could see the weight of those words resonating with others in the room. Mr. Thompson followed suit. "I've lost friends to heart-related illnesses," he confessed, drawing nods of understanding. "We need to do something to start caring for ourselves before it's too late." The room began to feel alive, charged with a mixture of vulnerability and bravery. Eleanor felt hope swirling around them, but it was also filled with sadness and shared struggles. Each revelation pulled them closer together, yet Eleanor noticed that some still held back, uncertain about their own stories. Then, a soft voice broke through the chatter. It was Chris. "I've never really felt like I fit in," he admitted, staring at his shoes. "It's like everyone else knows what they want, but I don't even know where to start." The room fell silent, the weight of his honesty hanging heavily in the air. Without hesitating, Eleanor knelt beside him, looking him in the eyes. "You're not alone. We all feel lost at times. It's okay to take baby steps. We're here to figure out together." Chris nodded, and a tentative smile broke across his face. As the meeting began to wind down, Eleanor felt a sense of accomplishment. They had opened up the first chapter of their collective journey. But as members shuffled out, with murmured promises to return, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. What lay ahead excited her, but also scared her. The truth of the fruit still loomed as an unanswered mystery. What if it could really heal not just their bodies, but their spirits too? What if they were about to delve into something much deeper than they had anticipated? Eleanor paused at the door, watching her neighbors leave, their faces infused with a flickering light of hope. Yet what was this fruit truly capable of? Did they dare to discover it together? Her heart raced anew. Our next meeting, she called to the dwindling crowd. Let us not just talk about health. Let us uncover the mysteries behind the fruit. Together, let us explore what it can do for us. The murmurs stirred a new wave of curiosity. The seeds of their journey had just begun to take root, but what could grow from this newfound commitment? What hidden transformations awaited them? Eleanor could hardly sleep that night. Every thought raced through her mind, a flurry of excitement and anticipation. The community center had felt so alive, yet what lingered was the sensation that they were on the brink of something significant. She turned over in bed, wondering what this fruit was capable of. Could it really bring about the kind of change they all needed? As days passed, Eleanor became consumed with the idea of the fruit, researching every aspect she could find. Was it truly a miracle? She immersed herself in studies and testimonials, surprising herself with how quickly the information poured in. Each piece unearthed layers of hope and wonder. Finally, Thursday arrived, and the community center buzzed with life once again. Eleanor greeted everyone at the door, her own excitement reflected in the faces of her neighbors. Mrs. Patterson clutched a newspaper clipping about the fruit, while Mr. Thompson had scribbled questions on a notepad. Even Chris walked in with a bit more confidence, a determination setting in. "Welcome back, everyone," Eleanor announced as they settled into their chairs. The cookie platters set out like offerings of sweet anticipation. "Tonight, let's explore this fruit and what it could do for us." As she shared the research she had compiled, eloquent stories of those whose lives had changed poured out. She spoke of people regaining their vitality, stories of joy and laughter returning to lives once burdened by pain and fatigue. Eleanor could see eyes widening and expressions growing hopeful. "I'm not saying this fruit is a miracle cure," she clarified, looking at Mr. Thompson, who had leaned forward in his seat, "but it has been shown to improve circulation, and that alone could change the way we feel. Imagine being able to move freely again, to keep up with the ones you love." The discussion shifted, questions bubbling to the surface like a pot of boiling water. "What do we need to do?" Chris asked, his earlier hesitance replaced by a spark of determination to Mr. Thompson chimed in. "Can we grow it ourselves? Will it fit into our diets easily?" Eleanor smiled, feeling the energy of the room pulsing in sync with their curiosity. They weren't just talking about health. They were crafting a vision for their community, a vision of exploration and transformation. "We can absolutely look into growing it ourselves," she responded. "For now, let us share ideas on how to incorporate it into our meals, what recipes we can create together." As they brainstormed, Eleanor felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. This wasn't just about the fruit. It was about them coming together to reclaim their lives. Laughter erupted with every suggestion. Who knew a fruit could create such joy? But amidst all this, a weight still hung heavy on Eleanor's heart. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more hidden beneath the surface of their newfound enthusiasm. What if the fruit didn't just change the way they lived physically, but also challenged their perceptions of success, happiness, and connection? As the evening came to a close, there was something in the air that crackled with potential. The warmth of the shared experience enveloped them. But Eleanor could sense a deeper journey ahead. "Next week," she said, a hint of seriousness spilling in her voice, "let us dig even deeper. Let us not only discuss the fruit, but also explore what else is holding us back from living fully." A murmur of intrigue swept through the room. Faces lit with curiosity, but a shadow of apprehension crossed Chris's face, hinting at unresolved issues lurking in the background. What was it that they would uncover when they unearthed these deeper truths? Would they truly embrace the change that lay ahead? Eleanor's heart raced at the thought, mysteriously excited and terrified of the revelations that awaited them. Eleanor arrived at the community center the following Thursday with a flutter of nerves. The excitement from their last meeting still hummed around her, but now there was an added layer of tension. She had suggested they delve into deeper issues, and the possibility of uncovering hidden truths felt almost daunting. What if they weren't ready for that? As the members filtered in, Eleanor put on her best smile, greeting each one personally. Mrs. Patterson handed her a fresh batch of cookies, their warm scent wafting through the room. Each bite would bring comfort, a reminder of home. Chris was the last to arrive, a thoughtful expression clouding his face. Eleanor could almost feel the weight of his unresolved issues pressing on him. "Let us circle up, everyone," she called out, trying to infuse her voice with cheer despite the tightness in her chest. "Tonight we'll build on last week's excitement and dig deeper into what might be holding us back." She began by introducing a simple question: what does living fully mean to each of us? The room was quiet for a moment, the question hanging in the air like the soft buzz of a distant bee. Eleanor's heart raced as she hoped someone would speak. Chris was the first to break the silence. "Living fully. I guess it means feeling better, not just physically but mentally too. Like not missing out on things because I'm tired or in pain." His voice was steady, yet Eleanor could sense underlying vulnerability. "Yes," Eleanor encouraged, her enthusiasm growing. "Feeling vibrant and engaged with life is essential." "What else?" Mrs. Patterson chimed in. "For me, it's about family gatherings. I want to keep up with my grandchildren. They're so full of energy, and I don't want to be left behind." Her eyes sparkled with emotion, a bittersweet longing evident in her voice. As more people shared, Eleanor started to see a common thread weaving between them: fear, nostalgia, and a desire for connection. They weren't just discussing physical ailments. They were revealing pieces of their hearts. Yet, it felt like they were on the edge of something deeper still, something that could shift the ground beneath their feet. "Let's explore what's standing in our way," Eleanor prompted, her voice steady despite her own trepidation. "What fears do we each hold that prevent us from stepping into this fuller life?" A palpable silence filled the room, and Eleanor could see the gears turning in their minds. Then Mr. Thompson spoke up, his voice low. "It's easier to settle for less. Trying to be better means accepting that we've been stagnant for a while." "It's daunting." Eleanor nodded, feeling the weight of his words. It was true. Change seemed monumental when faced head-on. "But perhaps," she said slowly, "we can challenge those fears together. Take small steps to nurture our physical and emotional health." The discussion evolved, excitement and fear intermingling in the atmosphere. They talked of potential garden plots, new recipes, and even ideas for a series of group exercises, ways to build health and community side by side. Each suggestion sparked laughter, a sense of possibility filling the space. Yet, underneath that laughter, Eleanor felt the heaviness of unsaid words lingering. There was something more they hadn't touched on, a deeper truth hiding in the shadows. She glanced at Chris. His face was pensive, even apprehensive. "What about loneliness?" he finally asked, breaking the tension. "What if that's the thing we need to confront? It's not just about health. It's about how we connect or don't connect with each other." His words fell like stones, heavy with meaning. Eleanor's chest tightened as she realized he was right. They couldn't ignore the emotional aspect of their journey. What if she started but paused? Could they dive into this deeper truth? As weeks unfolded, would they dare to strip away the barriers of loneliness and find community in their vulnerabilities? Would they be willing to confront the hardest truths, even at the risk of uncovering pain? A sense of urgency began to ripple through Eleanor. Preparing for next week's meeting felt essential. They were on the cusp of something transformative, but could they take that leap? What awaited them just beneath the surface? Eleanor sat in her car after the meeting, staring at the dashboard while the last echoes of laughter faded away. The warmth of the cookies had given her a brief lift, but Chris's words echoed relentlessly in her mind. Loneliness, a truth that had been lurking beneath the surface of their discussions, waiting for the right moment to break free. What if they each admitted their struggles with connection? The fear of being vulnerable was palpable, yet she felt it was a necessary step. The community needed this exploration, this confrontation with their own hesitance to connect openly. With every passenger in that room, something deeper was at stake than just health. It was about relationships, about companionship in their twilight years. Maybe I can start with my own story, she murmured to herself, contemplating how she could open that door. She needed to be the one to set the example. But to share her own feelings, her own experiences, was terrifying. What if they didn't respond well? What if their fears were greater than their willingness to connect? Feeling a tingle of resolve surge within her, Eleanor took a deep breath. She would find a way to bridge that gap. The next meeting would revolve around vulnerability. She'd approach it gently, but firmly. She envisioned a circle of hearts, opening one by one, cultivating trust and compassion. As the days passed, ideas fluttered through her mind. Crafting gentle prompts would be essential. What does it mean to feel lonely? Or when do you feel most connected to others? She jotted them down in her notebook, feeling a spark of excitement at the possibilities. Thursday rolled around, and Eleanor arrived at the community center earlier than usual. She decorated the room with simple streamers and a bouquet of fresh flowers. Since they were digging deeper, it felt vital to create an inviting atmosphere, something that whispered, "You're safe here." As the members began to trickle in, she greeted each one with warmth, but a shadow of uncertainty loomed in the corner of her heart. Chris arrived last again, his brow knitted with caution as he took in the vibrant setup. "Looks different today," he observed, a hint of curiosity softening his tense posture. "We're working on feelings tonight," Eleanor replied cheerily, her heart racing beneath her composed exterior. "Can we try to be open with each other? I want to talk about loneliness and connection." "It's important," just as she hoped. Chris nodded slowly, as if contemplating the words. Mrs. Patterson took her seat beside him. "Oh dear, you mean it? Like really talking about how we feel?" Her voice trembled with a mix of fear and eagerness. "Yes, that's right," Eleanor encouraged. "We all have our thoughts, our fears wrapped up in this. Maybe the first step is simply sharing what makes us feel lonely. You don't have to be brave. We're all in this together." The room felt charged with potent energy. Cautiously, Eleanor tossed out the first question. People shifted in their chairs, glancing at one another, weighing the load of their honesty. Then, Mr. Thompson spoke, breaking his silence. "I feel lonely when I see families together. It's like a reminder of what I've lost." Silence followed, thick and heavy. Yet this was the moment. Eleanor felt them approaching something monumental, a transformation that might shift their understanding completely. The atmosphere changed, slowly but surely, as each member began to share pieces of their untold stories, their silent struggles. The sharing was cathartic, painful yet liberating. But the most surprising part came when Chris, usually reserved, finally leaned forward. "It's this fear of being a burden," he said, his voice cracking slightly, "that if I need help, I'll push people away. It just makes me retreat into myself." Eleanor's heart ached at his admission. She saw unguarded vulnerability shimmering in his eyes. And just when she thought the room had fully opened up, a voice rang out from the doorway, yanking them from their circle. "Did I hear someone say lonely?" All heads turned toward the newcomer, a figure Eleanor recognized, but hadn't anticipated. What did they plan now? Would it amplify their fears or offer support in ways they never imagined? A wave of murmurs swept through the room as Eleanor squinted towards the doorway. It was Doug, the new health consultant for the community. His presence was unexpected and a little jarring. Doug's reputation had preceded him not just as a vibrant speaker, but also as someone who had swept in like a whirlwind, eager to share the latest health trends, often simple answers to complex problems. "Did I hear someone say lonely?" he repeated, a grin plastered on his face, trying to bring levity to his suddenly serious atmosphere. Eleanor felt a knot tighten in her throat. The energy she had worked to cultivate, the tenderness that had begun to settle in the room wavered. Just as the attendees were peeling back layers of their emotional skin, Doug's cheerful interruption felt like a sudden chill in the air. "Hi, Doug," she managed to say, trying to tether her thoughts and regroup. Her heart raced as she gauged the reactions of her group. They were looking at her, waiting for guidance. Eleanor's leading a discussion on vulnerability and connection tonight, Chris said, his voice surprisingly steady. Doug's smile faltered just a fraction as he pivoted to face Chris. "That's great. But you know what you really need to feel better, especially in your golden years, is a robust diet and some simple lifestyle changes." He glanced back at Eleanor, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, like discovering this amazing fruit that can transform your circulation and clear arteries. It's like your heart will be thanking you left and right. Eleanor felt a heat rise in her cheeks. This was not what they were trying to achieve tonight. They weren't just after quick fixes or health fads. They were grappling with feelings, the weightiness of loneliness. Still, she didn't want to shut him down outright. "Thanks for the information, Doug, but tonight is about more than just health tips," she said, tried her best to maintain a warm tone. Doug shifted, clearly not understanding. "But people feel better when they feel healthier. Think about it. Loneliness? Maybe it's just a symptom of not taking care of yourself." He stood beaming, oblivious to the anxiety threading itself through the community members' expressions. Eleanor felt frustration bubble up. "It's more complex than just a fruit, Doug. We're talking about emotional connections, about fears, relationships, and how we navigate our lives together." Awareness flickered across Doug's face as he began to realize he might be missing the point. Some of the attendees remained silent, their expressions a mix of confusion and uncertainty. "Let us focus on why we're all here tonight," Eleanor said, her voice rising a little. "Not just food, emotions matter, too. Can we talk about how we feel in our lonely moments and how we can support each other?" Into this tumult, Mrs. Patterson raised a shaky hand. "I think we need to listen to Eleanor. I felt something I haven't in a while, just by sharing. It felt real." Eleanor was surprised by Mrs. Patterson's courage, yet it felt like a lifeline. A ripple of agreement passed through the room, and Doug, finally catching the vibe, stepped back slightly. "All right, I hear you," he said, his tone shifting to something more subdued. "Emotions are a big deal. I'm all for that." As the tension started to ease, Eleanor looked around. There was something beautiful in this shared struggle, a community seeking to rise above its fears. Maybe Doug's input hadn't been entirely misplaced. After all, health and emotional well-being went hand in hand. But just as Eleanor felt the room start to shift back onto its path, she sensed an unexpected ripple of energy from the group. Someone else was about to speak up, and it could be, had a sense of urgency. "Eleanor, wait. Before we move on," Chris said, leaning forward again. "There is something I've been holding on to. It's bigger than just loneliness." Her heart raced again. Everyone was hanging onto his words, ready for what he would reveal. What would come next? Would Chris's unveiling deepen their connections, or would it disrupt the delicate balance they had just begun to create? Chris's voice held a weight to it. Time seemed to slow as everyone leaned in, eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and concern. Eleanor felt her breath hitch in her throat. There was something gathering in that space, a storm of suspense and emotions that clamored for attention. Before we dive back into sharing, Chris continued, his hands trembling slightly. "I need to say something that's been weighing on me for too long. I haven't just felt lonely, I've felt completely lost." A hush fell over the room. The crackle of vulnerability echoed like a live wire. Eleanor's heart pounded harder, sensing the importance of this moment. Chris was bearing a deeper truth. His face flushed as he pushed on. "I thought I could manage it alone. I kept thinking that if I just stayed busy or healthy, everything would be fine. But it hasn't. There are days when I feel like I'm drowning in my own thoughts." The murmurs from earlier succumbed to stillness. Eleanor caught glimpses of her group's expressions: wide eyes, furrowed brows, shared frowns. Chris's honesty struck a chord. In a room full of people, his words echoed the loneliness many felt. It gave him courage. "I used to think loneliness was just a part of my life," he confessed, nearly in a whisper. "But it's not. It's an ache. It's waking up to an empty room and wishing someone would just see me. Tears shimmered in his eyes, and his vulnerability felt like a thread binding everyone tightly together to Mrs. Patterson nodded, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Her own emotions mirrored in Chris's admission. I understand. I lost my husband last year, and every day feels like missing pieces of myself. It's terrifying. Her voice quaked with pain. A collective sigh rippled through the room. Others were shifting in their seats, a mixture of empathy and understanding flickering among them. The connection was deepening. Doug, caught in the widening emotional current, stood quietly, realizing the gravity of the situation. Eleanor leaned forward, heart swelling. You're not alone, Chris. None of us are. Don't you see? This is why we're here. To lift each other up. To share our stories, our struggles. She felt her own eyes prick with tears, her voice strengthened with resolve, urging them to find safety in each other. This ache, you're right. It's a part of being human. Eleanor's tone softened, turning apologetic. And acknowledging it is the first step. Maybe we can find ways to heal together. Share what we hold inside, so we don't have to carry it alone. Doug finally spoke up, his cheerful demeanor replaced with sincerity. I may come with health tips, but I see now that health isn't just physical. You're all right. There's a significance to emotional health that we can't overlook. I'm here too. I hope I can help foster that. At his words, Chris breathed a deep sigh, releasing some of the weight that had burdened him. The recognition in the room felt electric hearts slowly opening, like flowers basking in the sun after a dark winter. But just as the warmth began to weave through them, Eleanor noticed her at the back of the room, her face pale, lips trembling. Guys, while we're sharing, I have something to say too. It's been haunting me. Eleanor's gut tightened. What more could Tara unleash? She felt that familiar knot in her throat again. Would the next revelation pull them under, or would it strengthen their bond even further? The room held its breath, waiting for the next wave to crash. Tara stood up slowly, her hands trembling as she sought the right words. What if I told you that my loneliness isn't just about missing people? It's about feeling so disconnected from myself. I feel like a stranger in my own skin. Gasps echoed around the room, a collective recognition of her struggle resonating within the hearts of many. I've lost sight of who I am, she continued, her voice quiet but steady. I went from being vibrant and engaged to battling these shadows that creep in every day. And it's terrifying to admit, but I don't know how to find my way back. Tears streamed down her cheeks. The vulnerability hung in the air, thick and palpable. Eleanor's heart tugged as she watched Tara, who was usually the first to crack a joke or lighten the mood. This moment transformed her from a familiar face into a symbol of shared struggle. You're not alone, Eleanor whispered, her fingers curling tightly around the edges of the table. We're all on this journey together. The weight of those collective emotions seemed to lift, and suddenly, everyone began to share their experiences, stories of loss, confusion, and a longing for deeper connections. Mrs. Patterson spoke about the quiet evenings spent in the empty house after her husband's passing. Some nights, I'm flooded with love, other nights, the silent screams. Mr. Thompson chimed in, I get it. Every time I pass the old neighborhood, I remember friends I lost. Memories haunt me like shadows. The air crackled with shared understanding, their shared fears intertwining. There was pain, yes, but beneath that pain, there was an undeniable bond forming, stitching their hearts together. Sorry, I just keep thinking about the fruit, Doug interjected, now standing at the side, visibly moved. I thought it was all about health, but maybe it's more about how we connect to each other, how we can heal together. Eleanor nodded vigorously, sensing the potential shift. Exactly. What if the fruit symbolizes the flourishing life we all desire, not just in health, but emotionally, too? She could feel the tide of hope amassing in the room, lifting spirits. With Mia at her side, Chris finally found his voice again, laced with determination. I don't want to drown anymore. I want to ride the waves with all of you. Let us create something where we can gather, support each other, and grow. Together, Eleanor echoed, We can take this journey as a community. We can confront every shadow, every fear, and we can thrive together. The crowd erupted in nods of agreement, the mood in the room shifting from despair to vitality. Smiles started to break through genuinely brightening faces that had once felt heavy with isolation. The atmosphere ebbed and flowed with positivity, the kind that stirs the very foundation of life itself. Chris stood up firmly, embracing the moment. Let us create a plan. Weekly community kitchens, wellness workshops, and regular gatherings where we can dive deeper be the support for one another, he declared. Applause surged through the group, a chorus of eager hearts hungry for connection. Eleanor clapped alongside them, tears of joy shimmering in her eyes. This is our chance. A chance to stir the pot of possibility and flavor our lives with warmth and love. Tara joined in, wiping her tears with a newfound smile. I want to contribute too. I can host craft nights, where we can create something beautiful while talking about our journeys. Let us connect on all levels. The laughter and multitasking ideas flowed like water from a sprung fountain. Eleanor felt herself grow lighter, buoyed by their collective spirit. It was clear they were embarking on more than just a healing journey. They were building a network woven with the threads of resilience and acceptance. When the night finally drew to a close, Eleanor looked around, her heart swelling with pride. Each face radiated determination and joy, eyes reflecting the hope she had yearned to witness. No longer isolated, they were a shining tapestry, stitched together with stories and vulnerabilities ready to flourish anew. Thank you for sharing your hearts tonight, Eleanor said softly, feeling the warmth of their connection settle deeply in her chest. Remember, we're here for each other through ups and downs. Together, we'll embrace this journey. As they all said their goodbyes, Eleanor held each gaze, her soul weaving itself into their silent promise to nurture those connections. The moment felt electric with possibility, and Eleanor felt a glow of realization wash over her. They weren't just healing their bodies, but rejuvenating their spirits. They had opened the door to connection, each person a luminous thread in the intricate tapestry of life moving forward. The night ended, but something had begun, a journey toward healing, acceptance, and most importantly, one another. Now, you need to join this movement. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because this is the moment when we uplift each other. Comment below your reactions and feelings about the journey of Eleanor and her community. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second, to share. You are part of something special. And only true fans understand the importance of supporting our shared stories through these actions.